Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning. It depends on where you're listening from. I can say that because my guest, I am in Miami, well, in Florida in general. And my time now is 2 minutes after 7 ET. My guest will tell you differently. When she comes on, I will ask her. But I guess we are 4 hours ahead of her. So I can say that many other parts of the world, not only in the United States, where many people do not understand that there are some states here in the United States that are difference in time are really extraordinary. And where my guest is from, it's sort of an extraordinary as it relates to where I am from here in Florida, reaching out to you. And on Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast, I'm Dr. Canute White. And I'll be sitting in with Melonie Yates. Yates, right? I guess I pronounced it right. She will help me with that pronunciation when she gets in. All right. But we have a lot to talk about. Melonie is a therapist. She is an author and she is a coach, really. And she has been helping so many people to get through in life, to cope, right? To return to that state of happiness that they need to be in. Happiness is something that we need to have. We talk about pursuing happiness. Is it that it's something that we'll never catch up with? We keep pursuing happiness. Melanie will want to talk about that as well. But I will invite her in at this time. Melanie, how you doing?
Hey, it is so good to be here.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks. Welcome to Canute Exploration. Your topic in the podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White, as you know. Talk to me about where you're from and the time zone there.
Okay, well, I'm from sunny California
Oh, California.
and I'm looking out at the ocean right now. I live in Central California in Monterey, and it is 4 o'clock, so the sun's still
Oh,
out, and I'm waiting for the sunset to go down. And I'm so grateful to be here and
thank you.
talk more about it.
Right, we have a lot to talk about. It depends on where the sun sees you or the sun shines on you on the earth. It's unique, God's creation, right? Hey, Melanie, I'd like to talk to you first about who is Melonie? Who are you really? Let's talk about you.
Well, my mission is to help people understand how to love themselves more. I absolutely had a hard going at it for a while there. I felt really burnt out in my job, and that really came to the place of I didn't think I really knew who I was. So how it came out for me is that I went on a who is Melonie exploration, and
Okay.
I dug really deep, and I didn't do it alone. I live a life of consultation today, and I like to call it my panel. And the beautiful thing is that anyone can have one. You just have to figure out who you want on your panel. And there might be
Okay.
some people that you need to kick off the panel you're currently listening to so that you can feel better about your life.
That's interesting. So the panel is basically persons who would not be necessarily critical in a destructive way, but constructive criticism. Would talk to you about who you are really and try to help you to gain the sense of self. Are you saying that?
Sure. Well, I think a lot of times we lack perspective.
Mhm.
When I'm just talking to me about me, I
Mhm.
might I might have some blind spots. In
Yeah.
fact, I know I have blind spots. And so it helps to get honest with ourselves. I don't know if someone could have helped me, maybe 10 years ago, because I was so living in such a different perspective, and I didn't even really know what the truth was. But as I
Yeah.
started getting honest about what I
Yeah.
was really feeling and not being so worried about what other people were going to think if I said this or I felt that or I did that, um, I was able to get more honest with myself. And that actually helped me have better relationships with other people so that they could actually give me real feedback, real perspective that could actually help me change.
I love that, Melanie, because I need to get a panel. listener, don't listen to us from your favorite podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon, Spotify, etc. Those watching Canute Exploration on YouTube. You need to get a panel. It sounds very interesting. Melonie, I will get a panel. Right? But going back though, let me say going back, your childhood. Tell us a bit about your childhood.
Well, I was born of goodly parents. My parents are wonderful people. They tried to create a loving environment. They had a spiritual life and a church life and a religion that they felt was the best way to structure your life. And for whatever reason, I think it's just part of my personality. I kind of have a rebellious personality where you tell me one way and I'll do the exact opposite just because I'm curious, just
we do that.
I just want to check it out. Right?
We do that, Melanie. You're not alone.
Yeah. So I really ignored a lot of what my parents told me to do. Just because I just wanted to check it out myself. Very curious individual, even really young, very curious, very kind of did it my own way. In fact, I remember my mom when I was about 5 taking me for like a modeling, some kind of, I guess it's like a beauty pageant today.
Okay.
You would go and like you get dressed up and you kind of perform and you're in front of a panel and judges. And these are just little girls, right?
Right.
And I was a total tomboy. So I show up at this thing and like no one had curled my hair. I didn't have any makeup on. And these little girls had like princess dresses and makeup and like tiaras and all this. And my dad is like taking me back there and he's like, oh my goodness, like I think we're in the wrong place. And the funny thing is, I go out there and I won the audience. I won the crowd. They were telling me, I didn't know my right from my left, or I was just getting it confused. And they were telling me to twirl around. And they were trying to point with their finger. They were doing like a gesture with their finger to like tell me to turn around. But I just copied what they did. So I took my finger and was twirling around. And I was just hamming it up on stage. And do you know what? I won the contest.
Cool.
I'm the one that walked out of there with 3-foot-high trophy. And I was not the cutest. I was not the prettiest. I didn't have the makeup, the hair, the dress. I didn't have the mom that had taught me how to twirl.
Yeah.
But I did have something that won. And I think that this is kind of a cool lesson because it's kind of like I had no fear. At that point in my life, to me, that's who I really am. I've been trying to tap more into who that little 5-year-old that won that trophy is. Because
I'd love to see that video. I'd love to see that video, Melanie. I love it.
I wish I had it on tape. I really do. Because it really was one of those moments where I won, but not in the conventional way. And I think a lot of times our thinking, we think that we have to do it this traditional way or the way other people have done it. But I won that trophy in a way that no one else has won, right? I just got up there and I was myself. I was funny. I was making people laugh because I didn't get it, and they were asking me funny questions like, they were asking me questions. I was asking them questions. She asked me how old I was. I asked her how
really, Melanie? You were. You were making a difference. You were making a difference there, and that's what make you actually won the contest. You made a difference. And you made them laugh, and that's critical. I love it.
And that little girl, she somehow got told that you need to be somebody else. And so as we go through life, this kind of happens to all of us. We're told we do something completely carefree, and we're really being ourselves, and then someone tells us, well, that's not right, or that's
Yeah.
not good enough, or you need to do it a different way. And slowly, that can really kill a kid's spirit, right?
Yeah.
And so I think just what happened down the road is I just started conforming. Like, I just started doing what other people told me to do. And I went to school and I went to college, and I did what I thought my parents would be proud of. And
Yeah.
I just kind of conformed to what society thinks is okay. So
Yeah.
I got a medical job. I started working at a hospital full time, and I was making good money. I was
Yeah.
educated. On the outside, it looked good, but on the inside, I wasn't really fulfilled.
Okay. Melanie, we're going to talk more about that, because those are some of the things that I need to ask you about, the lesson learned and so on. Some of the other questions. But before I do that, maybe you have alluded to it, before, but this thing about in the inspiring message that comes from your childhood, I figure you have alluded to it somewhat, but do you want to expand on it? What the inspiring message that comes out of your childhood that will help others?
Well, really tapping into who you were created to be, because I believe we are all unique and different and have something wonderful to offer the world. And so, it took me many years to kind of get back to that little girl that won that trophy on the stage, because I wasn't afraid.
Yeah.
I wasn't afraid to be who I was meant to be when I
Yeah.
was 5. And then, take 30 years later, and it's like, I'm terrified. I don't think I'm good enough. I'm afraid of what people think of me, and I want to just fit in, and I'm willing to fit in at my own expense. And
Yeah.
so the moral of the story is really figuring out what does make you stand out. Everybody has this special, unique thing about them individually that I believe that God made them that way, that they're supposed to be here for a reason, and that we all have something to contribute to making this world a wonderful place to live in.
Yeah, and I agree. I could never be a Melanie, so to speak. You could never be a Canute. There must be difference within the world, and that's cool, right? And we, all of us together make up this beautiful, wonderful world. Yeah. So you're right about that. You're right about that. So the next question I have for you: what is the most important thing you have learned in your life? Maybe some of the things you have sort of mentioned, but sort of put icing on it. What have you learned in your life? Important thing.
The most important thing I have learned is to love myself, because if I don't have the love inside of me, I have nothing to give. I really believe that if you don't have it, you can't give it. And so, I wrote a book last year, and it's called Happy, Joyous, and Free. Love your life no matter what. And the whole solution about that book is how to love yourself. That love really is the answer to peace. And the equation that I have for my clients and in that book is love plus choices equals peace. So when we can figure out how to cultivate love, and I believe, you get that from a higher power, whatever it is. You have to find something greater than a human being to cultivate love and the love that's inside of us, and really go deep enough to find where that love is. The love isn't outside. It's not from a person, place, or thing. We have to cultivate that inside of us. And then when we have that, we have more choices. And when we have more choices, we feel empowered. And so those two things, love and choices, is what grounds us and balances us and gives us true peace.
Yeah. Interesting. I love that, Melody. I love that. But before you have learned that lesson, right? What had been going on in your life before, and after learning that lesson, what's the change that you have seen?
sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's what was going on, because I was looking for love in all the wrong places. Do you know that song, Dr. White?
Yeah.
The
Sing that. Let me hear it. Give me a bit of it.
looking for
Put
love
me on
in
the
all the
spot
wrong
there.
places. Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't want to hear me
Yeah,
sing.
I got it, Melanie.
But that's what we do. We look for love in the wrong places, and that's what I was doing. I was looking for a man to be my higher power. I was looking to money to be my higher power. I was looking for a spiritual experience through alcohol, you know? And for a long time, I thought that was working. It looked like it was, you know? I mean, maybe to society's eyes, it looked like it was working. And yet, you know, I'd find myself when I was alone crying, and I felt stuck, and I felt trapped, and I didn't feel good about myself. And it really was, it was a painful place, because I was always feeling sorry for myself. And I was looking for love. I wanted to be loved. I wanted to feel love. And I really wasn't looking in the right places. And so that's how I came to this thing, to this place of, I have to figure out a way to cultivate love from within, instead of relying on, you know, money, people, places, and things. Because what happens is any of those can be taken. We know from the pandemic, any of our loved ones can be taken. Money can be taken. During this pandemic, there was so many things people weren't ready to have taken from them. And you would know that if all of a sudden you were basing your happiness or your love on those things that were taken, you're in a rough spot, you know?
Definitely. And you know, as you say that, I wanted was to ask you before, but this is a good opportunity to ask you. Do you think that others can make you not love you? You talk about self-love, but is it that easy? Can others make you not love yourself?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think that I had surrounded myself around people that maybe contributed to some of the thoughts and beliefs that I had about myself, which kind of made that, you know, snowball effect of, I think I'm worthless. I don't think I'm good enough. Right. And so you can figure out a way to love yourself enough that it doesn't hurt when people say, and the thing is, you have to know the truth. So when you know the truth about yourself, when you have confidence and you truly love yourself, you know the truth. And so when people say something that's not the truth, you know it. And you can either walk away, or it doesn't hurt as bad. And this takes practice. This is a skill. You don't just snap your fingers and then all of a sudden you have all this self-esteem and confidence. It takes practice. And the funny thing is that I can say, you know what, Dr. White, I feel really good about myself today. And then all it would take is someone leaving like a nasty review about me on your podcast, right? And me feel like, oh, I'm such a loser, right? Because it goes up and down. You know, we can take things personally. And if we don't practice the skill of knowing who we are, knowing what our mission is, like our own individual, you know, mission statement. You know, I think we all need like a mission statement of like, what's my plan here? What do I want to contribute? What am I doing to contribute to the world? And where am I at? So that there's this constant growing towards learning how to love yourself and know what you're here for, like having a plan, having a goal. I think a lot of us start feeling bad about ourselves because we have absolutely no direction. We have no idea where we're going. So we're just kind of like flopping in the wind, and eventually when you're blowing in the wind, you think you're free, but you're really not, because you don't know where you're going.
Yeah, it can take you in a place. You know, you have said two things from we start this conversation. This thing about panel and this thing about mission statement, personal mission statement. Those two things for me is critical, right? And you know, it's something that I think my listeners should engage in. You're listening to Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White, sitting in with Melanie, and it's great to have her. She has been saying some real good things, you know, things that we can take as life lessons, life plans, right, moving forward. Melanie, this thing about relationship, though, we're going to tap into it a bit. What is your secret to creating boundaries in relationships? Because relationships is really, I said to my client, because I am a therapist as well, right? I said to my client, hey, relationship seems to be one of the hardest thing to do, right? Talk to me about those boundaries in relationships.
Okay, this is my favorite topic
Yeah.
because that's probably what really got me to my knees. It was relationships. So I really believe, and I kind of already said it, but I'll just say it again because I believe that when it comes to boundaries, the way you have boundaries is by raising your self-esteem. Because when you raise your self-esteem and you raise the love you have for yourself and you know who you are and what you stand for, you don't let anyone pass that boundary because you know it. And one of my favorite saying is, you do not have to defend the truth. The truth stands by itself. So a therapist once taught me that if somebody called me a name, and this used to happen to me in one of my relationships, I felt like I was being bullied and I was the victim, and I thought I was the victim of verbal abuse, and I really felt like in this relationship, I was getting beat up verbally. And what happened is she said, well, what is going on? And he calls me a name. And she said, well, what if you could consider it's like him saying you have black hair when I have blonde hair, right? So what I would do when I heard the name, I would pretend like they were saying you have black hair.
Yeah.
And for someone to say I have black hair when I look in the mirror and I see blonde hair, I don't need to fight. I don't need to defend. I don't need to argue. I don't need to punch somebody because they're saying I have black hair. I know I have blonde hair. And what I now this is a great tool. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I love it. I hear it.
This thing that you say after someone says you have black hair, and Dr. White, I would be saying, you've got blonde hair. I see you have blonde hair, right? You would just say, wow, Melanie, thank you for letting me hear your perspective. Or just say thank you. Thank you is a complete sentence, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah.
you don't have to engage. I can just say, wow, that's so interesting that that's what you see.
Yeah.
And you can just go on. I don't have to go on and on and on about my hair's blonde. I can just say,
you know the truth.
Just there's no reason to fight about the truth.
Yeah.
And so that is my bottom line with boundaries, is that when you build yourself up, the boundaries are automatic. They actually happen automatic, because when you think of someone who is confident and has self-esteem and feels good about themselves, if someone calls me a name, I'm just going to walk away.
Yeah. Right? So yeah.
And the other thing that we do in relationships is we let the label of the relationship give them more leeway to treat us bad. So like, let's say the label of parent, let's say I mean, there's not a lot you can do when you're a kid and they're,
Right.
they have the food and they have the roof over your head. There's not a lot,
Yeah, nothing you can do.
but once you're a grown adult,
Yeah.
you can take a look at the relationship you have with your parents, and is it serving you? And you can either grow your self-esteem big enough that you can automatically be able to say thank you and it doesn't bother you if they are nagging you or insulting you or whatever you think. We get into that cycle in a relationship. Or I think sometimes we let the label of, well, it's my mother, so I'm going to let her treat me bad, or it's my husband, so I'm going to cut him slack and let him treat me a different way than I would let you treat me. You know what I mean? And it's like, why is it okay for my husband to treat me different than, like if I was walking on the street and some random person I don't know called me stupid, I wouldn't even think twice about it. When my husband calls me stupid, I'm like, get sick in bed and feel nauseous and, want to eat ice cream and I don't know, check out, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I let it affect me, right? And so that's one thing that I think is hard with relationships, is that we usually we let the label of the relationship, we make excuses for it. We make it excuses for someone's behavior.
Yeah.
And when you're confident and you love yourself, you don't have to.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I like the point that you make about the hair. I mean, this is the truth. I know the truth, so I don't care what you are saying. I love that, and I see where you tap in that I statement in it. I felt this way I felt this way when I was called. Right, I rather to be called next time. So, I see that I statement thing comes in, not to the pointing fingers and others. But how do you help your clients, though, Melanie, change unwanted behavior they kept doing on and on and on?
Yes. So sometimes it can be really hard to stop behavior, that is a pattern. I mean, we get so used to just responding and reacting the same way. It's really hard to stop a pattern. So that's where neuroplasticity comes into mind, because what we want to do is train our brain to think differently so that we feel different and then we behave different. And then it's that behavior that gets us these different results. So when I have a client who has unwanted behavior, the first thing we need to do is identify what the behavior is and what they want the new behavior to look like. And then we kind of backtrack and look at what am I thinking before this unwanted behavior, right? So do you have an example of an unwanted behavior?
All right, take for instance, hypothetically, I curse a lot, you'd curse a lot, be aggressive on others without a reason. You don't want that, but it's just happening.
Okay, so what I would do with a client is we would look at, what do I feel right before I start blowing my mouth out, and start yelling and whatever. And then we would look at what thought comes to mind when I want to start calling someone a name and cursing at them and yelling. So, because this is not a new problem, this happens all the time. I kind of know what the thought process is. Usually it has to do with, I'm afraid, I feel threatened about like someone taking something from me or losing something I already have. So that's the thought that comes before we start screaming at someone, because we need to defend ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So fear is usually has something to do with the thought pattern before a behavior comes after. There's a consequence of this fear thought, and it turns into a behavior. So I use tapping. There's another word for it called EFT. And tapping is just a way, there's specific points on your body that you just literally take 2 fingers and just gently tap, like gently tapping at the top of your head like this. And what it does, emotional freedom technique, EFT, is it uses the same meridians that they do in acupuncture, these pressure points, to shift energy. And it basically, it calms the nervous system. So when you think of when you get riled up, like when you get ready to fight someone or you start cursing at someone and yelling, your adrenaline, you have gone into the brainstem of your brain, which is the fight and flight. You've gone into the part of the nervous system that was made to save our lives, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that stress hormone, cortisol, that can be good in situations where you need to save your life. But what happens to a lot of people here in America that I've found out about is that, we don't take care of our stress and the way we behave to it. So it just gets put off and off and off. And the pressure of the stress keeps building, and our cortisol levels, the stress hormone level stays higher than it should be in the body.
Right.
So tapping has been proven to lower cortisol levels in the bloodstream, which calms the central nervous system. So what we would do in that situation is I would teach my client how to tap. And you would just tap on the side of your hand, and we would say statements with each other.
Yeah.
And we have to acknowledge the negative part to kind of release it, to get to the positive side, the opposite of what we're looking for. And I have found that this helps people change behavior in a lasting way, in a permanent way, in a in a pretty easy way, because it's just tapping, and it honestly only takes a couple minutes every day. It's just, to really change behavior, you have to be consistent. So if you could take 3 minutes every day to do this tapping, there's no question you would see results.
Yeah. Interesting. I was just thinking that this whole thing about psychoeducation, it's important because if you and I understand the whole concept of neurotransmitters and chemicals and so on within the body, but if most people do, I think they will understand more what's happening to them, and will perhaps deal with stress, depression, and anxiety better. I'd want to suspect, right? But you have gone through that. But there is this thing about dealing with those persons struggling with anxiety, depression, stress, as we have said. You have started to give some advice, things that you will do. But in general, what's the general advice that you will give people who are struggling with these sort of mental illnesses?
I would want to give them hope, because we all need hope that we can get through what we're feeling, and that you're not alone. There are so many people dealing with anxiety and depression and stress. And honestly, I don't think there's anyone that's not dealing with it. I think all of us, I mean, I really believe that we're put on this earth to learn and grow and build and create. And so, that means there's going to be change, and that means there's going to be some blood, sweat, and tears, And to me, blood, sweat, and tears means anxiety, depression, and stress. Like we have to, but there is hope, and there are so many tools to get you through what you're feeling. And, you know, feelings are not facts. Feelings are signals. Your depression, your stress, your anxiety, it's telling you something. It's signaling, hey, I'm trying to talk to you. I need something. I'm looking for something. I'm warning you that the way you're going about this isn't working. And so, but we don't listen.
Right.
We don't look at it as we try to ignore it. We think if we ignore it, it'll go away.
Yeah, and you're right. You know, and that's what I'm saying. You know, we as practitioners need to say more, especially in this time with the pandemic, because I believe that many persons do not understand. And you're listening to Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I am Dr. Canute White, sitting in Melonie Yates. The thing about it, guys, we need to understand the whole challenge of mental illnesses, and I want you to listen to Melanie and understand, absorb what she's saying. And at the end of this podcast, you will hear more about how you can contact Melanie. And I hope that you do that and to buy her book. And we're going to talk about that book, Melanie, more. Why did you write a book about being happy and joyous and free and so on? Tell us about the book.
Well, I wrote the book because I got quarantined, and I didn't have COVID symptoms, but at the very beginning, I was exposed to somebody who tested positive. And so it was like I had the plague. It was like, go to your room, don't come out. So I wrote a book, and the thing is, I had this book inside of me, and I had the opportunity to actually get it on paper because of that, because of those 10 days I was locked up. And so I wrote the book because I am so passionate about sharing my experience, because I really was hurting emotionally. And I found tools that were simple and easy to use that a coach taught me. And I just wanted to spread the news and the hope to anyone who might be struggling. And, you know, happy, joyous, and free. Love your life no matter what. And the part about the no matter what is no matter what's going on, no matter if you're going through divorce, whether you have an addiction, whether you lost your job, whether you're sick, you know, we can't let life dictate whether we're going to be happy, joyous, and free. And there is hope that we can learn how to use it in a way that benefits us. And it always comes down to our thinking, because our thinking doesn't like anything that interrupts, you know, the way we see things. You know, if we feel stressed out, if change happens, whether it's good or bad, you know, our body starts freaking out. And so it's learning how to kind of adapt, you know, that, like they say, like the survival of the fittest is the people that can adapt.
Right. Yeah.
So, and that's kind of what's going on right now, because mental illness, I mean, it is rampant right now. And I think what happened with the pandemic is if people were already struggling, that just really put them over the edge. And people are hurting right now. And I guess I just relate because I've been there. And, you know, the pandemic really didn't slow me down at all.
Right. I know, right?
It's really because I've been practicing the skill of adapting and accepting and loving what is, no matter what.
Yeah. What's the name of the book?
Happy, joyous, and free.
Right.
Love your life no matter what.
I love it. I love it. We will get, guys, we'll get to the contact information, Instagram and so on, that you can connect with Melanie and get a copy of that book. But Melanie, what surprised you about the solution to your unhappiness?
Well, I think what surprised me was that everything is changing all the time.
Yeah.
And here I am, I wrote a book, I'm happily married, my kid is doing well in school, and I have all the things that I want. I'm looking at the ocean right now. I have all the material things that a girl could possibly want, and yet I still wake up sometimes and feel like I'm not happy. And so it's interesting because it's my thoughts. So what I'm surprised about is that my thoughts need continuous solution, because it can just, my thoughts change so much. That means my happiness can change so much.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I think the surprise is that I still get depressed. I still get stressed out.
Yeah.
And that surprises me, because it feels like I should have arrived already. Like I should, and the thing is, that makes us human.
Yeah, of course.
We are human beings, and that it is okay to have feelings.
Yeah.
And I have to remind myself, what is my feeling trying to tell me? It's a signal. And when I don't try to pretend, because I still feel like I have to hide if I'm sad. Like, I don't want my kid to see that I'm sad. I don't want my husband to see I'm sad. These are the people that love me the most. These are the people that can be there for me the most. And here I am, I want to hide that because I have this thought in my mind that it's not really okay. And it's just not true. And so don't believe everything your mind tells you. Half of it, if not more, is a complete lie.
Definitely. Melanie, I was a part of this Facebook group of psychologists, and non-psychologist persons are able to get on the group as well, and perhaps ask a question and so on. And those of us who are psychologists / therapists would answer and so on. But I remember one lady said to a psychologist, "Hey, how can you be depressed? How can you be stressed? You're a psychologist." Apparently, she's not expecting that. But I think I was the one who went on and said, "Hey, the psychologists are humans too. We will get stressed. We may get depressed to an extent that we need other psychologists for support, just like a doctor gets sick, right?" So, so you're right about that, But that's good though, Melanie. And your book is critical. But there's this thing about the one thing that your program did for your client that you didn't expect. Let's go there.
Okay, well, let's see. That's kind of a tricky one. I'm trying to think. There's actually so many.
So many success story.
Yeah,
so many success story. But that one success story that you said, "Hey, yeah, I want this to happen, but this client working with me so well, right, that this happened more than I think it would have happened."
Well, I think how fast someone can change the way they feel about themselves. I think that tapping EFT has been a huge game changer for speeding up the process of change, because, like how we were talking about, our feelings can keep us stuck. And so I had a client who was in the Coast Guard, and she had saved lives, but also had to recover bodies in the water. And she was terrified of water, terrified. And she couldn't, if there was even a movie that had water in it, she would have to, she could get a panic attack. Like that's how even physically her body. And that's how powerful EFT is. We completely changed her fear around, her PTSD around water, her phobia around water, completely healed within 6 sessions. So that's the cool thing about tapping. And I think I continue to be surprised because it's just tapping on points of your body.
Yeah, I love
and
it.
it can wipe out cravings. It can help with addiction. It can help with phobias. It can help with PTSD. It can clear out, events, traumatic events that have happened in your life that plague you, that are, they might have happened a long time ago, but it's like, you just want to keep them in this little box, never to open them. And, and the thing is that stuff, when we bury stuff down and we don't deal with it, it does have a consequence. It's just like throwing up and putting the carpet over it and just being like, well, out of sight, out of mind. Well, the throw up doesn't go away. It's under there. And eventually it can even rot your rug you put over it, right? Because it will seep through eventually, and it might be, our mind also remembers everything. So it happens like a trigger where, if someone, was abused as a kid and there's this certain tone of a voice, and years later, they've never been hurt, but then their spouse gets that tone and it's like a trigger. It's a snap of a finger that they feel afraid for their life because it's still there.
That trauma, that trigger that brings to mind that trauma again. This question will perhaps help us to understand some of the experience that you have had as well, right? The hardest part about divorce, quitting alcohol, and getting remarried. I guess that we'll hear a little about you in this that you'd like to share.
That's I don't know how much time we got, but
go on. I'm good.
You're so cute. Okay, well, I'll tell you, the hardest part for divorce for me was that I really learned how to love my ex-husband.
Okay.
I didn't want to leave my marriage until I learned the lessons I needed to learn, because I didn't want to have to learn the lesson again.
Okay.
There's this theory that if you don't learn it the first time, you'll just marry again and learn it that time or the next time. There's these lessons that we can't really move on to the next lesson until we learn the first one. And there was things that I got to learn in my first marriage that have made me who I am. And I remember, basically things were better than they had ever been in my marriage. I was married for 16 years. And our last year of marriage, we had more intimacy, more vulnerability, more communication than we ever had. And it wasn't enough. We both gave it everything we could, and it wasn't enough. And I basically came to a place where I was able to love him exactly the way he was. And in order to do that, I needed to let him go. And I remember the other piece of that is that I loved myself enough to let him go, because together we couldn't really be who we both wanted to be because it was in conflict. But by letting each other go, we really had the freedom to really be to be ourselves, And it was like, we didn't need to be in conflict with each other of like, you should be this way and you should be that way. it was more loving to let each other go.
Yeah.
And I remember the hardest part was when we filed for divorce, and he came to my front door and he said, "Are you sure?"
Okay.
And I knew I was sure. And when I had shut the door, I just cried, and I told God, "Why do I have to love him so much? It would be easier if I hated him."
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think that's really true, but it really came down to I loved myself, and I loved him enough to let him go. And
Yeah.
and sometimes though that hurts,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I needed to, I had to quit drinking alcohol to be able to get to that point where I really could love somebody and be sincere and authentic about it. So
Yeah.
quitting alcohol was just, that just needed to happen so that I could get in touch with my feelings,
Okay.
you
Yeah.
know? Um, and the rewards were finding the mate that I have today. You know, I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
the blessings of being able to do the hard stuff so that I would be open and available to finding someone who's compatible with me. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
there's no you should be different or you should be different. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's a it's in a place where we both love and respect one another.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got to that place with my first husband,
Yeah.
and we were able to let each other go because we loved and respected one another. And that's,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, most people don't get to that place. They
Yeah. I
really
know, right? Yeah. And you know, I this friendship that you have after your divorce, because there are many persons, not well, let me not say many, a few persons who have this friendship with their ex-husband slash ex-wife, ex-spouse, right? After, maybe a bitter separation, but that friendship started to blossom. Is it that you have this friendship with your ex-husband?
You're making me laugh a little bit because friendship,
Sorry.
um,
Yeah.
I like the word respect.
Yeah.
I think we have a mutual respect for one another. And it's not a romantic love.
I know, right?
It's like and I don't even know if I can call that a friendship. It's just, it's this like, it's the way I want to love any of God's children. You know, it's a respect and love that I'm no better than him. I'm no less than him. He's, he's a fellow man.
Yeah.
He gave the DNA to our son. So I want to love him because that means I love all of my son. For me to reject anything of
Yeah.
my ex would be rejecting a part of our posterity and
Okay.
our son. And how could I do that to our son? He needs to know that I'm at complete openness and wholeness with his dad, and
Yeah.
that we are both united in um, loving him and teaching him and guiding him. And so I've never looked at it as like we have a friendship, but
Right.
I mean, maybe that's something I need to look at because, it's one of those things that, I definitely have a good relationship with him. I have a working relationship with him.
Yeah.
And we are parenting our 14-year-old son. And, you can see that our kid is doing well because, he's happy, and
Yeah.
he's doing okay, and he's not acting out. And, I think that speaks volumes for itself when your kid is happy.
I love that. I love that. I'm very proud of you, Melanie. That's a great, great thing to do. You understand what I'm saying? But I just like to look at, if you could go back in time to talk to your younger you, say 18, right? What would you tell her? What would you tell young Melanie at that point in time?
I would tell her, don't ever give up. I would tell her, you are worth it, girl. I would say, go get them.
Yeah.
Because when I think about, my dreams and, I was too afraid.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
too afraid when I was 18 to go get
Yeah.
them. I was too afraid to
Yeah.
believe that I could be who I am today. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I could do it. So I kind of went the safe route, and there's really nothing wrong with that. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
still where I am,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and I get to have an experience to share with other people, and I know I'm not. I know I'm not unique, and that there's no new problems out there, and so I get to share my experience, and hopefully it helps another young woman.
Yeah. Before I let you talk to some people, give some advice, right? I just like to find out what is the best tip for making the world a better place. If the world can become a better place, I don't know, because we keep pursuing happiness, pursuing happiness, pursuing happiness. Did we catch up on it? I'm not sure. But can the world become a better place? And
I
what are
think
the
so.
tips? Okay.
Because I think it all comes from our thoughts. Like I I train people to
Okay.
think differently so that
Okay.
they feel differently. So when we have the thought, you know, it's not possible to make the world a better place, I mean, that kind of gives me some feelings and some behavior, right? But
Mhm.
when I believe I can make the world a better place and that I can make a difference, then I have a feeling with that thought and a behavior with that thought. So I have a little saying, and it goes like this: if I'm not the problem, there is no solution.
Okay.
Meaning that if I take responsibility for my thoughts and my feelings and my behaviors, then the world will be a better place. When I
Cool.
start pointing my finger and saying, "Oh, it's them and it's you and over there," you know, I
Yeah.
I'm 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 trying to change people that I have no control over.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so by taking responsibility, that's how I believe any of us can make this world a better place. And why does it have to be the world? How about just inside your own household,
Yeah.
You
Side
know,
you. Yeah.
inside of us, like it
Yeah.
starts from within.
Yeah.
It really does. And
Mhm.
so that's what I teach. I teach people how to think differently so
Yeah.
they can feel and behave differently. And that's how you get different results.
Right. Yeah. You're listening to Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White, senior to Melonie Yates. Look, Melanie, I this segment before we end, I just want you to not talk to me really, but I'm going to tell you the category of persons who I just want you to talk to them as if you're looking at them in front of you, right? So the first category, I'd like you to talk to those persons who are being divorced. Talk to them, be it male or female. Talk to them.
Well, I've been there and I've done that. And I know that divorce is like death, and it means that there's a grief process, you know, just like someone going through death, there is a grief process, and it's about denial, it's about acceptance, it's about being angry. There's a lot of different feelings that are going to come out, and the feelings are healthy. And I would encourage you to get yourself a support group. I think one of the best things that you can do is have a panel of people around you that you can trust, that you can be yourself, that you can call that you can talk to about the thoughts and feelings that are going on, because you do not have to go through it alone. And you're going to feel like you're alone, but you're not. And there's a lot of negative energy around the word divorce. And there's a lot of self-pity and victim energy around being divorced. And so, you know, you really want to ask yourself how you want to go through this, how you want to go through it. And I chose grace. You know, I wanted to walk through my divorce with grace. And, you know, I really believe with God's help and friends and family and people that had done it before me, I lived through it and I walked through it. And I think the last thing I would say is it will be over. And I think sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you feel like it's never going to end. It's never going to be over. And I promise you one day it will be.
Okay. So I have 5 more categories for you. The next category, those who are addicted to substance, be it alcohol, any other substance. Talk to them.
Well, you know, alcoholism, pills, drugs, sugar, food, sex. There's lots of addictions out there.
Yeah.
Bottom line is you have to get done.
Yeah.
You know, you have to hit a rock bottom. That's what addiction is. It brings you to your knees, and until you get there, there's really no hope for you. You have to get to your rock bottom, and that rock bottom is there when you say it is. Yeah. You know, it's your choice when you want to stop. And in my experience, there's only a spiritual solution to addiction, because basically what has happened is your brain has been taken over by the addiction, and it has to be retrained and reprogrammed, and you're just going to need a higher power for that. And there's so many great support groups. There are so many tools these days as far as addiction goes. But bottom line, you're the only one that can get you to the place of really being done and being at that rock bottom place. And so, and it doesn't have to be in the gutter. You know, I wasn't in the gutter, but I was rock bottom. I hit my own personal rock bottom, and I chose, I don't want to do this anymore. And that got me on my knees, and I started a spiritual solution.
Yeah, great. I kind of smile a bit when you said food, because, you know, a lot of people don't realize that you can be addicted to food as well. Hey, the next one is those who plan on getting remarried. Talk to that group, and then I have 3 more for you, and then we you know, we should be tapering down.
Well, some of the stuff that I worked on before I got married was, what is your intention about getting married? You know, I had a lot of beliefs around, you know, if I get married, I won't be alone anymore. If I get married, I'll get to have sex whenever I want. If I get married, we'll have money. I'll have more money married than just by myself. Finally, I'll be accepted in society more if I'm married. I had a belief about that I'll feel loved if I'm married. And the thing that I realized is that, you know, it's like saying the hill is greener on the other side. You know, being married or not married, I still have to bring me
Yeah.
So the problem is always with me. And I'll just go back to, if I'm not the problem, there is no solution. So if
Yeah.
you're thinking that some kind of Prince Charming is coming, or, some great wife is gonna fix your life for you, you're so mistaken, because eventually it'll come to a place where, you'll blame them for your unhappiness, and
Yeah.
we don't take responsibility for ourselves. So
Yeah.
I really think that it's important to know who you're marrying, but also know yourself. I think knowing yourself is probably even more important if you're getting married, because a lot of times we're trying to put on this facade of, this is who I am, so that you'll marry me, so that you'll love me, so that
Yeah.
you'll choose me, right?
Mhm.
And that, and then once you're married, then you start going back to your old ways, and it's like you might have attracted the wrong person to marry
Right.
if it was all a facade and you couldn't really be yourself.
Right. Yeah. Very important. I love that, Melanie. All right. The next group is the youths. Those youths out there, talk to them for a while. You know.
Yeah. Well, I think that, you're the most important person, because you're our future, and I just want to lift you up and tell you that I love you and I believe in you, and that I know that there is a plan for you, and that I just would never give up. If you have dreams, run for them. Don't ever give up on yourself. And people are going to tell you, that's a stupid idea, you'll never make money doing that, you're not going to be good enough at that. And you know what? Only you are going to be able to decide what your life is going to look like. And you're the only one that has to live in your shoes. And so make it count, and find people that love you and lift you up, because you are who you are around. And so when you have people that are constantly putting you down, it brings you down. So find people, or look up to people that, make you feel alive and make you feel happy and make you feel like you could do anything, because you are our future and we love you.
Yeah, that was Melanie talking to the youths here on Can Youth Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I want you now, Melanie. There's two words. I want you now to talk to the women in general. Talk to your gender.
Yes, woman power. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the women out there know that they're what the world needs. This world wouldn't be here without women, and we need to nurture and ground ourselves with Mother Nature. I think, the more, especially powerful women and successful women and people that already, women that already feel like they are confident, we really need to ground ourselves in Mother Nature. And that means, take your shoes off and get your feet dirty in the soil or in the sand, and ground yourself, because our body language and our tone is so powerful that if we're not grounded, we can be misunderstood, and men need us. And so we need to be the grounding, calming, nurturing source of power that they need.
Yeah. You want to continue? Melanie, finish talking to the woman. Yeah,
Yeah.
Melanie, just talk to the woman about getting yourself involved with Mother Nature, right? But women, Melanie, they are Mother Nature as well. They're the mother of nature, I would think. I love that, right? They are. What can we do without them? Very important for us to note that. We're not leaving out the men. I want you to talk to us men.
All right.
Yeah. Tell us what you think.
I'll tell you, men, us women, we need you too. And we need you to be our protectors and our providers. We need you to be strong. We need you to be who you were created to be. We need you to be masculine. We look up to you, and we want to feel like women around you. And the truth stands by itself. And your body language and the way you talk to us and the way you nurture us makes us feel important. And we truly need you. And we look up to you. And so we want to respect you and love you back. And so I just feel like your grounding tool is being able to surround yourself with strong men that you respect, that you look up to. And we are who we surround ourselves around. So you want to always make sure that you have someone in your life who you look up to. Doesn't necessarily have to be a father figure, but somebody who you can admire and respect and that you feel confident around to trust and that you can talk to. And I think that you have to be strong for your families. So it's important that you have someone that you can really be yourself.
Hey, I love that, Melanie. I know that was the final one. I love that so much. On behalf of all the men, thanks. I take that for me as well. As you speak, I say that, you are talking to me. So I take it for all the men, right? I love it. Hey, Melanie, it's so nice talking to you. But I'd like to talk about your website and persons will be listening to us on their favorite podcast platform. So I want you to tell us what your website is. Those who are watching will see it scrolling across. What's your website?
Okay, it is happyjoyousandfree.org.
Okay. And we go now to your Twitter.
Yes, you can find me NeuroCoach Mel on Twitter.
Okay. And we go to your Instagram.
Yeah. So Instagram is also NeuroCoach Melanie.
Okay. And the final one I have here is your Facebook.
Facebook. Yes. Okay. You can find me at Melonie M. Gilman. And Live to Bless.
Okay.
You can always find me Live to Bless. And the other thing I wanted to give you for all your listeners is a free gift.
Okay, cool.
And you can find that at CoachMelanieFreeGift.com.
So that's CoachMelanieFreeGift.com.
Yes, CoachMelanieFreeGift.com. And you guys there's some video recordings about how I live a happier life and how you can too.
Oh, cool. Yeah. And we love that. Melanie, it was so nice talking to you. And I really appreciate you coming on Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast, our topic in a podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White. Melanie, great talking to you. What time is it now? It's 15 minutes after 8 here, ET in Florida, in Miramar, Florida. What time is it where you're at?
5:15.
Okay, then you're catching up with us. Don't worry about it.
I'm catching up.
All right. Hey, Melanie, nice to have you. And we'll talk. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. That was Melanie. Melanie is such a great person. She had taught us so much, guys. I have learned so much from her. I want you to go to the website, go to her Instagram page, go to her Twitter page, communicate with her. She'd love to hear from you. www.happyjoyousandfree.org is her website. Go there. She talk about the gift that she has, right? You heard where you can go to get that, and go and talk with her. She have so much that she had not said to us because of the time. I know that because she has a wealth of knowledge. So communicate with her, reach out, and hear what she has to say. Read her book. It must be a lot in it for us to learn more about her concept and the experiences that she had, in the past, and the future as it relates to pursuing happiness. Right? She talked about that, and I'm sure that if you communicate with her, you will find more. Guys, we are still in a pandemic. Remember to wear a mask, keep that distance, and I'm not forcing you to take the vaccine. I had done mine to Pfizer, right? So I'm encouraging you, do the vaccine thing now. We'll hear a lot of things about the vaccine, but hey, trust your heart, right? Do the thing that is right. You'll see how many people have died from the COVID-19. How many persons you know died from the vaccine? If you do know some, it's not millions, right? So think about it. That's logic for me, right? Well, I'm just encouraging you. This is Ken Youth Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I'm Dr. Ken Youth White. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.